The boardroom at Grayson Steelworks carried the stale scent of leather polish and quiet defeat. Sunlight spilled through the glass walls of the Dallas headquarters, catching on the polished mahogany table that had witnessed 3 generations of Grayson's strike deals. Today, it looked more like an altar for my execution. At the head of the table, my father, Richard Grayson, straightened his tie with deliberate precision. His lips curled into the smug half-smile I knew too well, the one he wore whenever he believed he'd already won. I was 32, the so-called creative one, the misfit child who never measured up. At least, that's the story they told themselves. "Well, Lena," he said, flipping through a stack of papers with theatrical slowness, "your brother Patrick will take the ranch, the lake house, and the portfolio. He paused, letting the silence ache. You get Grayson Steelworks." From her seat, my mother's expression tightened into its usual cocktail of disdain and disappointment. Patrick reclined in his chair, smirking openly. "A dying company for the family screw-up," he muttered. "How poetic." I didn't flinch. I folded my hands on the table, composed, professional, unshaken. Years of preparation had taught me that silence was sometimes sharper than any blade. What none of them knew was that I wasn't walking into a funeral, I was walking into a coronation. For the past 5 years, I had been the anonymous architect of Iron Crest Industries, the steel titan that had bled Grayson Steelworks dry. "Just sign," my father said, shoving the papers across to me. "Though why you'd want to inherit this sinking ship is beyond me. You should have followed your brother into law instead of wasting time chasing hobbies around the world." I almost laughed. Those hobbies were the years I spent on factory floors in Detroit, construction yards in Houston, and conference halls in Berlin, building a foundation stone by stone. Dad cleared his throat. "The handover with Iron Crest is in 30 minutes. They're taking our contracts. It's the only way to keep the lights on, even if it means dealing with that faceless CEO who's been dismantling us." Patrick snorted. "Whoever they are, rumor says they're merciless." I checked my watch, my pulse steady. "You'll meet them soon enough." Right then, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Hale, my COO. "Team in position. Ready when you are, boss." I rose smoothly. "Before we proceed, you should know my lawyer has already reviewed these contracts." "Your lawyer?" My mother scoffed. "Since when do you even have one?" The doors swung open. 5 people strode in, polished suits, unshakable confidence. At their lead, Marcus carried a matte black briefcase stamped with the Iron Crest logo. He stopped at the head of the table and smiled. "Mrs. Grayson," he said, voice rich with amusement, "you're sitting in my CEO's chair." The air froze. My father's brow creased. "What is this?" His voice cracked, the Dallas skyline blazing behind him. "Iron Crest, that company appeared out of nowhere 5 years ago. Founded by," he squinted at his notes, "Emmett Hale?" I allowed myself a small smile. "That's my married name. Not that you ever asked." The pen slipped from his hand and clattered against the table. Patrick's smirk crumbled into disbelief. My mother clutched her Hermes bag like a lifeline. "This is absurd," my father sputtered, his face modeling red. "Iron Crest is worth $500 million. Marcus corrected him calmly. $780 million, after the last round. And yes, he laid glossy folders across the table. Stamped with the Iron Crest emblem, Lena owns 67%. Silence swallowed the room. They stared at the documents, unable to process the reality in front of them. While they had dismissed me as a failure, I had been writing the real story all along. "I was building the company that's been outperforming Grayson Steelworks in every sector," I said evenly. Patrick's hand shook as he snatched up one of the folders. He flipped through pages in disbelief: the Houston shipyard contract, the West Coast expansion, the Singapore deals. His voice cracked. "That was you? Every single one?" "Yes," I confirmed. "Remember last Christmas, when you mocked me for missing dinner because I had nothing going on? I was in Singapore closing a $50 million deal." My mother's voice was small, brittle. "But you live in that loft. You drive a used car." "Because unlike some people, I don't measure success by appearance," I replied coolly. "I invest in my company, my people, and our future." Marcus slid another set of documents across the table. "Now, the real reason we're here: Iron Crest's terms for acquiring Grayson Steelworks." My father's complexion darkened from red to purple. Acquiring? His voice grated like a rusted hinge. We're only selling a few contracts, Dad. I leaned forward, steady and deliberate. Grayson Steelworks is hemorrhaging money. In 5 years, your market share dropped 60%. The only contracts keeping you alive were the ones I intentionally left alone. Until now. Patrick's whisper broke the silence. You did this on purpose. You destroyed us. No, I corrected, my tone hard as tempered steel. I built something better. A company that innovates, respects its employees, and doesn't cling to an outdated last name to survive. The weight of my words pressed down on the room. For the first time, they understood, I wasn't the family failure. I was the future they had never seen coming. Ironcrest didn't destroy Grayson Steelworks, I said. You did, by refusing to adapt. Marcus tapped the tablet on the table. The screen behind me lit up with bold letters. Acquisition proposal, Grayson Steelworks, $32 million. $32 million, well above current market value, Marcus explained crisply. All employees retained. Benefits upgraded. The Grayson name preserved as a subsidiary brand. $32 million, my father scoffed, though his eyes betrayed calculation. Desperation. He knew no other offer would come close. The alternative, I said smoothly, folding my hands, is watching Grayson Steelworks collapse as Ironcrest takes your last 2 markets. Your call. My phone buzzed. David, my husband. How's it going? Need backup? I smiled faintly, replying, all under control. Dinner soon. Patrick still stared, dazed. All those years you came to family gatherings in cheap clothes, letting us brag about our promotions. I was gathering market intelligence, I finished for him. Amazing what people will confess around someone they've written off. My mother suddenly straightened, her social instincts scrambling for footing. Well, darling, she said with brittle brightness, we always knew you had potential, and now. Don't. My voice sliced through the air like a blade. Don't rewrite history. We both know the truth. The room went silent again. Slowly, I reached into my briefcase, pulled out a thick folder, and laid it on the table with deliberate care. The next few minutes would decide everything. This, I said, laying the folder on the table, contains every email, every memo, every conversation where you mocked me or dismissed my worth. Our PR team has prepared 2 press releases. I slid copies across the polished surface. Version A, a clean acquisition announcement. Version B, the truth, how the Graysons mocked their daughter while she built the company that overtook them. Screenshots included. My father's face lost all color. You wouldn't dare. Try me. My voice was calm, almost soft. 5 years of being underestimated. Imagine what the business world will say when they realize the Graysons never saw their biggest competitor sitting at this very table. Marcus handed the drafts around. Patrick's hands shook as he read. His lawyer's training cracked under panic. This would destroy us, he whispered. The same reputation you chose over me? I asked gently. The one that made it easy for you to laugh at me every Christmas dinner? Lena, we're family, my mother said, reaching for her old shield, guilt. I leaned back, a cold smile touching my lips. Funny thing about family. It's supposed to protect you, not put a knife in your back. I laughed once, sharp and hollow, making them flinch. Let me tell you about family. Daniel, my husband you never met, believed in me when all I had was an idea and a sketchbook. My executive team, the people you saw walk in here, have been more family to me than you have in 10 years. I opened my laptop, projecting Ironcrest's org chart across the massive screen. See these names? Sarah in RD, Mike in operations, Tom in sales. All of them once worked for Grayson Steelworks, until you drove them away. Now, they run departments at Ironcrest, with equity. You poached our people? My father growled. No, I held his gaze. I recognized their value, just like you failed to recognize mine. Patrick bent over the acquisition terms, his voice reluctant. These are generous. Of course, I said smoothly. I'm offering above market value, job security, benefits, A chance for the Grayson name to survive, under something that actually works. My phone buzzed, a trading alert. Grayson Steelworks stock was already sliding as rumors leaked. You have 30 minutes, I said, rising. My team will answer your questions. I have a lunch with the governor about Ironcrest's new workforce initiative. The governor? My mother gasped. Since I became one of Texas's largest employers, I said, slipping the laptop into my bag. At the door, she blurted, the inheritance papers, you never signed them. I turned, smiling faintly. Keep the houses, keep the investments, I built something better. I let the silence stretch before delivering the last cut. Oh, and Mom, that tiny loft you mocked? It's the penthouse of a building I own. That used car? A custom Tesla with a 2-year waitlist. I just never needed to show off. By sunset, the deal was done. Catherine combed the papers but found nothing. My parents signed because they had no choice. Ironcrest now owned Grayson Steelworks. I chose press release A, the clean version, not out of mercy, but because success itself was enough revenge. That night, in our penthouse, Daniel poured champagne. How does it feel? He asked. Necessary, I admitted, gazing at the Dallas skyline. But you were right all along. I don't need their approval. I've outgrown it. My phone buzzed, a message from Patrick. I never knew. I'm sorry. I set the phone down without replying. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. The next morning, walking into Ironcrest headquarters, I was met with nods, smiles, quiet respect. The family I had chosen. The family that had chosen me. Marcus waited at my office door. The Grayson transition team is here. What's our first move? I smiled, pulling up the rollout plan. First move? Show them what real leadership looks like. Because this was never about revenge, not the kind they imagined. The best revenge is quiet, steady, undeniable. Building something so strong, so meaningful, that those who doubted you fade into footnotes. I closed the glowing news headlines on my screen and turned to the future. Now I want to hear from you. What dream did they say you couldn't achieve, and what's your next move? If this story hit you, subscribe, not because there's more coming, and there is, but because stories like this remind us, the people who should cheer us loudest often doubt us most. When that happens, you have two choices: let their doubt define you, or let it ignite you. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for applause. Build so boldly, so loudly, that their opinions become background noise. Success isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right.